why don't we get started? Let's start with a couple introductions of the RevolutionNJ team. So I'm Sarah Curitan. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Historical Commission. And let me invite my colleagues to introduce themselves. Mark, why don't you go next?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Mark Lawrence, Chief Public Historian here at the New Jersey Historical Commission, working on a lot of the RevolutionNJ programming and outreach. Thanks for joining us.
And then, yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Fenster. I am the Educational Program Specialist with RevolutionNJ. I'm also a high school social studies teacher for the last 32 years in Hillsborough, New Jersey, obviously. And I'm excited to see so many folks here and tell you in a little bit about the program and how our pilot worked, which was really phenomenal. So buckle up, we got a lot for you.
Thank you, Bob. So I get the pleasure of getting us started this evening. And I want to start, and Mark, if you don't mind, take up the screen share for a minute, because I'm going to ask everybody to raise their hand, okay, or not. Okay, so here's my question to all of you. And please either put your camera on or get ready to use the raise hand reaction. How many of you would like to see more middle and high school students at your site? Let's see all those hands. Okay, good. Fantastic. And those of you who didn't respond, I'm going to assume you're waving that hand, even though we can't see it. Yay, Jane's got her thumbs up going. Awesome. That's great. Well, History Happened Here, which is one of our real keystone programs for the 250th, is designed in part, one of its goals is to do just that, to get more middle and high school students into the great historic sites and historical societies and libraries and archives around New Jersey. So you all are key partners in the success of this, and we really are excited to recruit you and get you more involved. So this is what we're going to go over in the next hour. We're going to give you an overview of what the program is. Bob's going to fill you in on the pilot that we just completed. Lots of great feedback from that. We're going to introduce you to the roadmap for the program and the student learning standards that the state uses. If you're not familiar with them, this is a great opportunity to get a little bit more familiar. And if you're already familiar, hey, hopefully just a good review. We're going to share with you some videos to give you some examples of what we hope you will do. And then we're going to leave a good amount of time, at least 10 minutes or more at the end, for you guys to ask us questions so we can answer what you need to know. So with that, let's get started. So RevolutionNJ, you see the logo behind me and Mark. It is the state's official partnership for commemorating the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. And at the very beginning of our work with RevolutionNJ, one of the first things we did was to go out to different parts of the community and ask for feedback on what they would like to see us do as part of this 250th anniversary. And one of the great priorities we heard back from everyone was a real desire to strengthen social studies and history education in our K-12 classrooms and also our college universities. So History Happened Here was a concept that then was developed out of our education working group. And it's, as you can see in our slide here, it has some inspiration, which you're going to see quickly, that it was, in fact, inspired in some ways by National History Day. And some of you, I hope, have been judges for National History Day or been involved in different ways, so maybe you're familiar with that program. The third, and I am going to ask you to mute, if you will. Fantastic. Thank you. Another big core principle of this program is to really tie these great themes of American history to local history. That's really the whole point here, is we want students to really dig deep into the founding principles of the Declaration and the Constitution, but then really understand how those ideals have played out in their own communities. It also requires that students, as part of this program, make a visit to a public history site. So a historical society, a museum, a library, or an archive. So that's why you guys are such key partners. And I think there are many reasons why we want to do that. And Bob's going to tell you how the students felt about those visits in our pilot. But really, one of the great goals of this is to really introduce students to what great resources you all have, so that later on, quite frankly, as adults, they'll understand the value of these collections and these historic sites, and be real supporters and advocates in the future. And then finally, the program is also designed to really speak to students' own interests and initiatives. So you're going to see that part of this is they get to design their own projects, which has turned out to be a really exciting part of this. So next slide. And I think with this one, I'm going to hand it over to Bob and to tell you a little bit more about how the program actually developed after this concept came out of our education working group. So Bob, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. So obviously you can read the what's on the screen. I'm going to try to avoid reading to you. It's one of my pet peeves when people read what's on a PowerPoint, but or a slideshow. The goals that we have are, stretch throughout the entire communities. We're trying to connect the schools to their governments, to the public history sites, and strengthen those particular bonds. We want our students to come out of this having learned something about their community, recognizing that history is not something that is always far away from them, either in the distant past or literally in the distance. But as our name says, it happened here. And the prompt that we've designed, which is the next slide, is lengthy, wordy, and so forth. But I can tell you that I'll give you an advance about the pilot. All of our teachers who did the pilot loved this prompt. Nobody had a single suggestion about how to change it. But the prompt is very. I'll give you a few seconds to read it, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. Now, you might recognize that it is extremely broad. That is on purpose. We want our students to have to chase whatever interests them that could apply, that happened in their, not necessarily in their towns, it can be in their county, but something that happened nearby. And the other thing that you might notice is there's no time period specified here. Although the name of the organization is RevolutionNJ, and we certainly encourage work about the American Revolution, since, of course, New Jersey being the crossroads, and that's actually a co-sponsoring organization, Crossroads of the American Revolution. It could be from any time period. And students who want to write about the 1960s or write about yesterday, or even write about dates before 1776, if they could connect it to these themes that we see as being sort of inherently American and the basis of our country, it can work. So this prompt, again, is designed to, one keyword I'm going to say, you can go to the next slide, Mark, but one keyword I'm going to keep using is flexibility. The students are going to have flexibility and the teachers are going to have flexibility. So here's the rough outline of what the assignment looks like to the students. We're going to show you that side of things first, and then talk a little bit about the teachers, and then finally talk about your role. Again, the subject of their choosing tied to the theme. I already explained the part in red. I really wanted to emphasize that because I learned early on in this job a few years ago when I first got it that everybody thought we were talking solely about the American Revolution. We had public history sites that said, well, our organization doesn't do anything about that. Like, there's still something that you can connect to the themes. Students will be working either by themselves or in group projects. I'm going to tell you that it's much more likely for the younger students, let's say grades 5 through 8, to have their teachers assign them group projects. And then when they get to high school, those that are a little bit more ambitious, either the teachers or the students, would be more likely to do individual research projects. And then the form of the project can be almost anything, or really can be anything. If you're familiar with National History Day, a lot of what we do, we were inspired by them, but we took it even further. We're not a competition, but but we have the same idea. We have, in terms of giving them a certain amount of flexibility, but even more things are available for them to do, because this is not about creating the best project in the world. It's creating a project that is meaningful to students, inculcating them a love of history, interest in their community, and again, tying the community together. Next slide, Mark. So this is the timeline that we have in mind in terms of, or what has been our ongoing timeline, I should say. We, in the fall, started our pilot, and at this point in time, we actually had webinars in previous summer with some public history people. Some of them have started the work, but you're here today and you can start the work anytime. The program launches for real, full-blown in September, hopefully all over the state, hopefully in your community. Multiple schools will be involved in this, and you'll be hearing from teachers and students who want to use your resources to meet the requirement that they have, but also obviously to get the wonderful resources that you have, primary sources in particular.
Okay. So Bob, I'm going to hop in now and talk a little bit about this. Just to let you know that we do have great support for this program. Department of Education is very enthusiastic about this program, and you just saw the timeline. This spring, there will be a major launch of this program to schools to get them to sign up to participate in the fall. So we have a lot of support from NJ Department of Education. We also have great support from the governor's office and the Department of State. So I think there's every intention here to really push this statewide and get as many schools involved in this as possible. And as part of that, we do want to have some recognition for students who participate in the program. So we are planning a large celebration for these students in the spring of 2026. And we'll be working on the details of that this spring and have much more to announce about that. But there's going to be some real public attention focused on the program, both as we launch, as kids do it, but then a big celebration in the spring as well. And furthermore, I think there's tremendous opportunities for all of you in your own communities to connect with students and schools that are doing this, and maybe do some recognition at the local level too. You could invite the students in your town perhaps to display their projects at your museum or library or archive. You could hold your own recognition celebration for local students who've worked on these projects. So I think there's just multiple opportunities for us to intersect with the students and the educators who are doing this great work, and really build some great relationships that are going to help now in the work you do, but also in the future to continue those relationships with schools and students and educators in your communities. Bob, Bob, if you don't mind, I'm going to chat about this one just a little bit.
Okay.
Because I'm going to turn over to you for the pilot, but I'm going to talk a little bit about this event that you see in the picture here, which I had the great good fortune to attend. Look, that's me over there on the right in a green jacket. I mentioned that we got great support from both the Department of Education and from the governor's office. And here's some great evidence of this. This is one of the 6 schools, and I think we have Monroe Township Historic Preservation Commission. So these are your folks. And we had an opportunity to go with the First Lady. There's First Lady Tammy Murphy there holding the Murphy #1 jersey that the students presented her with. And the First Lady did make a site visit to visit with these 42 students who piloted the program. There's Commissioner of Education Kevin Damer there too in the front row. And all I can tell you is these kids were amazing. Their teacher is amazing, and the work they did impressed all of us. So I think it's a great evidence that we've got some great support, and we got off to a really good start. So I think with the next slide, perhaps we can hand it over to you, or maybe I turned too quickly, but it's back to you, Bob, to talk
Okay.
about the pilot.
Thank you, Sarah. So the point of us doing a pilot is, like any pilot that one would do, would be to work out the kinks of the project, to see whether the materials we were giving to teachers to use needed adjusting. And I was amazed that the feedback from the teachers was so incredibly slight. They were so happy with the materials that they were given. They made some constructive criticism, of course, and we're working on that in time for the launch of this big initiative. Will be launched in a website on our website in late April, where we're going to be providing all of the updated materials for teachers to let them know exactly what this program is going to look like, what kind of supports they have, and so forth. To try to, this range of grades is pretty broad, 5th through 12th grade, which presented its own challenges, but to try to figure out what would work and what might need adjusting, we picked 2 teachers from 5th and 6th grade, 2 teachers from 7th and 8th grade, and then 2 teachers from high school. We also managed an amazing feat of 2 of the teachers that I've just mentioned were from North Jersey, 2 were from Central Jersey, and 2 were from South Jersey. So we could kind of get an idea. And believe it or not, we also did suburban, urban, and rural, with the attempts of seeing if there's something that we're missing that might not occur to us in terms of our own individual biases and so forth. To do the pilot, you can go to the next slide, Mark. We had an accelerated schedule, of course. We because of the need to launch this and make the changes, the teachers, I should say, had from September to late January, as opposed to the real timeline for next year, which would be September through the end of April. And that meant that they really had to rush through these projects, again, with materials that might not have been, might have been B+ materials instead of A+ materials. And I just want to repeat what I was saying before about flexibility, and how it relates to you. I think as a classroom teacher myself, the last thing I want is somebody to hand me a curriculum with lesson plans and say, teach exactly this. I would bristle at that and I just wouldn't participate. So instead, we have given them incredible leeway to do what they want to do and how they want to apply it. Some teachers said, well, I don't have time to have 30 students do 30 different projects, so we're doing group projects. Or they said, it's going to fit into our curriculum in this unit, and so you have to do a paper about the American Revolution or a project about the American Revolution. Others were geographically based. And so you see here, what this is actually a high school project from the Marine Academy of Science and Technology, where they chose to create about the Sandy Hook Lighthouse. They did do a trip visit a field trip to the lighthouse, and they did a lot of research. And this was a children's book that they wrote. There's a whole book, of course, that they hand illustrated. And we're hoping that they'll actually visit elementary schools in their own community and read it to those children, so that they can learn, the younger children, so that they can learn about the lighthouse. This same teacher from the Marine Academy had her students do research papers. There were dioramas, there were slideshows, and there were even podcasts. Next slide, Mark. And this is from 6th grade, from Mount Pleasant Middle School, and they did something that looked like a newspaper. They did posters. They also did podcasts, and they did videos. And obviously, you're going to see a different level of material from the different grades. We had some wonderful projects that don't really translate, like giant, like museum-like projects that taking a picture of it isn't really going to capture it. I wish at some point we will be, when we do launch the website, we'll be posting exemplars which will include some of the podcasts and some of the research papers. And I think you would be dutifully impressed by the work that they did. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take a little while on this particular slide, and because there's a lot to say about. We gave them we gave both the teachers and the students a fairly extensive survey, and they loved the prompt, as I already told you. I would give us an A- basically on how well they received the entirety of the program. There were some issues, and I'll get to those issues in just a moment, but I want to talk to you. I'm going to give you a couple of quotations from the surveys. I'll give you 2 from teachers and 2 from students. One teacher's comment was, "It was a wonderful experience that helped students to develop analytical and critical thinking skills while being able to experience history hands-on by working as a mini historian to learn more about the history of our community." The second teacher wrote, "My students came away from the project with a much greater appreciation for the community they lived in and realized that they can personally become involved in important events, much like the people of the town before them." Student quotes: "I enjoyed doing the historic site visit and learning about experiences in our local history to make it what it is today because it helped me feel more connected with the community." Second one, "I really liked the localness of the project and the new things that I learned throughout research that literally occurred where I was sitting. It's really interesting to learn more about the history of a place that I thought of as just a park, but in reality, there's very important history on the same land." Now, there was data as well from surveys. We use like the Likert scale on a bunch of questions. And I can tell you, I'm going to give you just two little nuggets. The first one is that there was a significant increase in the interest in local history after they did this project. And then the second one was that of those students, all of the students that participated, 64% said they felt more connected to their local community. Now, I do have to tell you, it's very difficult for teachers. As a classroom teacher myself, field trips are really hard. And I'll talk about some of the reasons why some public history sites are difficult to get to in the first place on a later slide. But field trips are expensive. Buses are extraordinarily expensive these days because you're paying for the driver for every hour they're working. If they have to sit there for a couple of hours, you're paying them per hour. Getting time off, having the school approve it, those are pretty challenging. So we're going to talk about a couple of options in the third bullet points there, actually. Virtual visits are perfectly acceptable if that's something that you're capable of doing on your end. Or alternatively, if you could make visits to local schools, that would also count for the requirement that we have. It's not what we want. Ideally, we prefer them to actually show up to your facility. But one thing that they found was that when we initially envisioned this, we were thinking high school primarily, and we thought, well, high school kids can get there. Not always. They often don't have licenses and their parents are busy or reluctant. And so there are challenges as far as them meeting that connection. So if there's anything that you can do, particularly with the virtual visits or you visiting and guest speaking, or people from your organization guest speaking, that would be really helpful. The middle bullet point I'm going to jump back to for a second here. Many teachers, especially those in 5th and 6th grade who might be general education and not history teachers per se, may not have a clue about, first of all, they may not live in the community that they teach in. They may not have a clue about what stories exist in the local community. So if you want to be a partner with this program, as we'll talk about later, one thing that you can definitely do is start thinking about and identifying possible topics that students could work on. We have no problem if you presented them with 10 stories that might be of interest to them. And keep in mind what the prompt is. It's not just we're not doing biographical stuff unless it's got to be more than just, here's a person who fought in the revolution, or there needs to be more to what they're doing with their research, and the prompt kind of plays that out. So if you can put aside particular resources, give them help in accessing materials, we may be contacting you to ask you if you have research, if you have a library, for example, either you are a library or you have your own research facility within your site. Um, Basically planning ahead and creating a smaller version of the library that students would have access to, that would be great as well. I think that I've covered all the things here. So Mark, next slide. So we are making it clear, that this is a project that it requires, it's all hands on deck. I mean, going back to the African proverb of it taking a village. Well, the entire village is supposed to be involved here. We're talking about the schools, we're talking about the public history sites, and we're talking about the local government, civic societies, anybody who can lend a hand to promote, the recognition of our country's history, good, bad, and the gray areas as well. We seem to have lost the presentation.
And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna hop in just because I'm gonna share my screen from outside the presentation, but I want to
Okay.
just put on folks, and then Bob, I'll hop back to the presentation in a
Sure.
second. But I just wanted to put on folks' radar that we are asking folks to be a little patient with the website. Right now, everything that we've talked about or are going to be talking about is on our website. But we're going to be doing an overhaul, as Bob mentioned, coming soon, right? And on there, you're going to see that there's a couple of really cool things, including if you go to where I linked, there's a sign up page for educators and other folks who want to join in as a school. We have a separate link, sign up for public history sites that we'll be sharing later on the presentation. But that you can use that link to sign up and let us know that you're ready. And that's important because on our educators page, apart from having all the resources Bob's going to go over in a little bit, the roadmap, the learning standards, how to make visitor friendly videos to get students to come. We put all of our partner sites on the website. So folks who've told us, hey, we're willing to do all the things you recommend so that students know we're ready and willing to work with them for this program, we will put you up here. This is different from our Proud Partner program. This is solely for letting folks know that your site is open to students. But we do suggest you do become a proud partner. We can talk about that later if folks are interested. But I just wanted to show that there's a number of resources already online related to this whole project under our resources tab for educators. And I will hop back into our presentation now, Bob. And I realized I wasn't on video, so I apologize for that.
So the document or the page that you're about to see is a larger document, I believe. Are we sharing that one, Mark?
I didn't share. I think if folks want to click into it on that link, you can go down to it and it'll open up as a Word document for you. But this is just a part of it.
Yeah. So that basically this is our pitch to you as a public history site. That kind of covers what we've already talked about. The prompt is here as well, but we're just trying to create a situation where when students reach out to you, that you're ready, that you're able to assist them. I mean, I know that you could do it already. You could do that already, but now you know what's coming, and we're going to give you some more specifics in the upcoming slides. Next. So here we go. Here are some specific suggestions for you that I think that you really need to hopefully please take heed of these. I'll mention before I forget, there is a link on this slideshow about research guidelines, which we're providing to students as well, but I don't think we're not focusing on that right now. But first of all, knowing the prompt, having familiarity with the prompt, if you know what the prompt is and they're giving you some, if student is having trouble expressing themselves and they just tell you a name or something like that, you could come back to them and say, well, which of the revolutionary ideals do you think that connects to? And and then nudge them along. That would be really helpful. It also will be helpful to you in figuring out, and this is the third bullet point about reviewing your holdings, what is it that you have on hand that connects to local history. If it's outside your county, you probably don't want to, you want to avoid that because we want the students from your county to be working on things within the county. But what do you have? What kind of, and I've been to a dozen different public history sites, helping them with create some of the videos that you're going to be hearing about. And and at each place, they were excited to show me photographs or documents that they had in their vaults that they thought would be perfect for this program. The standards we're going to talk about in, I think, in an upcoming slide, I believe. And having an idea of what the standards are will be helpful for you. This is the biggest one, the one in the middle, the accessible hours and costs. If you want to be a partner here, if you want to help the kids, you can't have 2 hours in the middle of a Thursday on the third Thursday of the month. That's not going to work. Students are in school till 3 o'clock or later, even. Having weekend hours would be really, really helpful. Evening hours would be fantastic. You don't need to be open for 40 hours a week to make that possible, but just having some options for students. The other one is, if it's possible, to waive admission costs if you have them for students who identify themselves as working on History Happened Here. That would go a long way to making it more accessible for students, or even photocopies. That's something I know some places charge for that, others don't. Anything that you can do that would prevent some of our more needy students from participating. Having staff who understand the things that we've just been talking about. If you have computers or online databases, that having them ready for students. If you are able to do presentations, whether it's a webinar for a virtual field trip, or something that you could record and leave on your website that students could look at. Similarly, creating the videos that we're going to talk about, and you're going to see one or two of them later or in a few slides. Next slide now. Thank you. So the standards, there is a handout. Are you sharing that, Mark? Or is or are we pointing them to the website?
Yeah, that's also pointed to the website.
Okay. All right. So the New Jersey learning standards are voluminous for social studies. They are probably the most long-winded of all of the states, the ones that I've looked at anyway. But the good news is that we have pared them down to the most likely suspects of what to just a few pages, as opposed to the 40 pages that you would get if you printed the whole thing. They range from being very specific, some of these standards, to being incredibly vague. I like the vague because that gives maximum flexibility, but you'll have those available to you as a resource. And if you don't know what these look like, here's what I'm going to say to you is, you're not going to be surprised by anything in the standards. You're not going to be shocked that the only thing you might be surprised by what's not there, as opposed to what is there. Next. Okay, I'm trying to remember what this slide is. All right, so we have here a variety of just little tips here that, again, that we know that some students are going to gravitate towards the most obvious thing, whether it's a Revolutionary War hero or a celebrity from their community. I live in Somerville, and so if I had students, maybe they'd want to do Paul Robeson. It's a great topic, but maybe we, or Washington sleeping here for a summer. Do we need another paper on George Washington and Alexander Hamilton, or could we get them to think about maybe somebody who is an ordinary citizen, or some diversity in choices would be helpful. So if you can, again, offer some suggestions or steer students towards something that's less run of the mill, it would be wonderful, especially the older students. Again, the topic can be any time period. I'm going to beat that drum a whole bunch of times so that we don't have everybody doing American Revolution stuff. They can do it. They don't have to. The unsung heroes or the unsung individuals are ones that I assert that, the American story isn't the story necessarily. It isn't solely the story of the people in power. It's also the story of the powerless. It's the story of those who resisted. It's the story of those who overcame challenges. Those are things that both people for and against. The school in Sandy Hook, they spent a lot of time talking about Colonel Ty. who was a black man who fought for the British in the American Revolution. And easily, Colonel Ty could argue that he was both challenging the American ideals and he was actually living them. It's an interesting way for student historians to approach various topics. And you can just kind of read the rest.
And Bob, I'm just going to add one thing, and that is one of the big goals for Revolution NJ is to help everyone get more comfortable with the reality that history's complicated, that it's not always a simple story. There's complexity to our past, just as there are complexity to human beings. So yeah, if you can think about suggestions for students that will help them kind of grapple with that complexity, that's really terrific.
Now for the videos, which the aforementioned videos, we're gonna show you one or two in a moment. I just want to. They're not that difficult to make. Obviously, you need a video camera, or you need to be able to film. You can do it on a phone, as is depicted in this video. Somebody needs to edit, of course. You need somebody on camera, and it explains here what you would do. We also have a how-to sheet for public history sites how to make these. The thing that I want to get across why it's important to have these. For the students who are going to make the trips themselves, who are going to visit a public history site, you need to remember that number one, students are shy. Most students are pretty shy, not comfortable with walking into a space they've never been to before, talking to adults that they don't know, just being so unsure of themselves. Particularly after COVID, it's gotten much worse. So we're trying to push them a little bit in this direction. And so the idea behind the site videos, which is one of my contributions, much of this is not my, I inherited some of these things, but this was mine, was that I wanted to have a friendly face, possibly, most likely one of the people that they would run into when they got there, showing them the space, showing them some examples of what their library, what their museum looks like, why you might want to come here. Some of them talk about 2 or 3 specific topics, like the ones we've been talking about, having you identify for them. Others are more general. We have, genealogy books. We have this, we have that, and then just showing pictures of those things and letting students know what's there. So when they start, maybe they come to your site with a topic in mind, or maybe they go to your site and they leave with a topic, or they change. And these videos, I think, make it much more likely that you're going to get the foot traffic when they go to the website. It'll be more user friendly when we launch. There'll be most likely thumbnails of the videos. When a student from my county, Somerset County, clicks on the tab for Somerset County, it'll open up with the list of all of the sites that are welcoming them, and it will have videos from however many sites have created them, and they can say, well, I've never heard of this place. Let me look at that one. And let me look at that video. And then maybe there'll be one that they connect with and they say, that seems like something I want to do. Whether it's a specialty museum, which they would not even think of. I mean, in taking on this job, I visited for the very first time, even though I've lived in this county for 25 years, I'd never been, I'm ashamed to admit, I've never been to the Historical Society of Somerset County. I didn't know where it was. And it happens to be an incredible historic building. And, it's like, well, okay, now I know. And now I can tell my students where they should go, and they can go to Wallace House in Somerville, and they can go to these various locations. And if all of those, if all of your organizations, the ones we already have and more, partner up and provide and tell students that their doors are genuinely open to them and welcome them, particularly with those videos, I think it would be very helpful.
I'm going to hop in here and share one of these videos, just a short clip from the Museum of Cape May County.
And while Mark is doing that, let me just add too that I know some of you may not have sites that have archives or libraries. You may be a historic site. Don't forget that you have resources that students can access too for this. Objects are also primary, sources. So just keep that in mind.
Hi there, and welcome to the Museum of Cape May County. I'm Jacqueline, one of the archaeologists and trustees here at the museum, and I'm here to tell you about some of the resources and things we have going on here that can help with your research. History happened right here in Cape May County, and we are honored to be the repository of the information and artifacts that tell the story of our community. From archives and artifacts to archaeological excavations to our library and genealogical resources, there's something here to help with just about any project you could dream up. The best way to experience our artifact collection is to come along with us on a tour of the museum. You'll get to wander the historic Cressy Holmes house, which is must-see for several reasons. Part of this house has been standing longer than the United States of America has existed. Architecturally, it's a well-preserved example of both the first period and third period heavy timber frame construction techniques. One of the more prominent residents of the Cressy Holmes house was Richard C. Holmes, whose innovative take on lifeboats saved an estimated thousands of lives. A series of his personal letters are preserved in the museum vault. His mother, Mary Leeming Holmes, his sister, Charlotte Holmes Townsend, and his brother-in-law, prominent yet problematic naturalist John K. Townsend, wrote to Richard often, revealing a deeply affectionate family entirely as concerned with one another's affairs as we are today. After you see the Cressy Holmes house, take a look through the barn that houses our military and maritime collection, including our famous twisted harpoon. And of course, you can't miss the beautiful Fresnel lens we're known for. Take a peek into the shed to see our historic carriages and stroll through the grounds containing our burgeoning colonial herb garden and even a historic outhouse. Check our website at cmcmuseum.org for current tour times since they change seasonally. If you're looking for primary sources, historic letters, wills, maps, diaries, other original documents, our archives contain a goldmine of material on a wide variety of topics, from love letters to eyewitness accounts of Revolutionary War battles fought off the coast of Cape May, to historic hand-drawn surveys of the property that houses our museum, and so much more. In our library, you'll find reference books, periodicals, photographs, birth, marriage, and cemetery records, and more on topics ranging from Cape May County families to the Revolutionary War to Mayflower descendants and beyond. To access these resources, fill out a research request form on our website, cmcmuseum.org, and make an appointment to come in. The librarians will pull resources for you to examine while you're here and facilitate any scans or images you might need. Each summer, archaeology students from Stockton and Rowan universities join our archaeologists here at the museum to learn how to excavate. Depending on when you visit, you might come across our digs. Ask a college student to update you on what we're finding. You'll get the most current information since they're the ones pulling it out of the ground, and they'll get some great practice articulating their findings to the public. Whether you're researching what daily life was like for women in New Jersey in the 18th and 19th centuries, looking into the sea battles of the Revolutionary War, tracing the experience of enslaved and manumitted people in New Jersey, exploring the shipbuilding and whaling industries, or something else entirely, you'll find resources to help you here at the Museum of Cape May County. We'll see you at the museum.
A little applause for Cape May. And we have just a couple more slides to wrap up in the next, we don't want to go any more than 5 more minutes because we want to hear your questions. So, Mark, are we going to go back to our presentation?
Yeah, I'm trying to grab the link from it so that it's easily digestible. But here is where we're going to be sending folks. If you are interested in being a site that is ready to play ball, make a video, take care of all the recommendations that Bob suggested, we're asking folks to sign up at that link. And that's almost the last slide. I would say that is the last slide, but I'm going to show off the logo that we've been working with DOE on. So
Okay.
let me hop back into the screen share really quickly. You're going to start seeing this logo around. It's called Revolutionary Schools. It is the sort of the big education effort that we're working on together with the Department of Education. So you're going to have schools around the state signing up as a revolutionary school, and they're most likely, if they're doing this type of work, they're most likely going to take part in History Happened Here. Am I still there?
Yep, you're still there.
Cool. You most likely take part in History Happened Here or another civics program called Foundations of Democracy, which is for K-5. But I'm not going to go too much into that because today we are talking about the History Happen Here program specifically. I just wanted to put that on folks' radar, that you're entering into a larger ecosystem where we're trying to get schools, libraries, history sites all working together, trying to bring people to your sites and to each other's resources.
That's fantastic. So great. Now we want to take your questions. I'm just gonna say one more thing about that last point that Mark made, and that is that, as I mentioned, DOE is going to be making a big push at the end of April to all schools across New Jersey, promoting revolutionary schools, and we'll be offering schools a menu of different programs they can use to be part of this. History Happen Here, as I mentioned, is a big part of that. Mark already told you about Foundations of Democracy. We have a traveling exhibition that schools will be able to borrow. We have teaching resources online that schools can use to do their own kind of programming. And so they're going to have a menu and they can choose from that. But I hope you've been able to pick up, History Happened Here is really a program we're very, very excited about and want to really promote it very, very vigorously to our middle and high school students and teachers. So with that, let's turn to your questions. What do you think? I know Phil is asking for any recommendations for a free and easy video editing software. I know nothing about that, so I'm going to see if Bob or Mark can have any suggestions.
Well, I answered him in the chat. If you have an Apple computer, you're home free. PC is a little bit harder. That I have an Apple and I actually use a program that I paid for, but there are apps that my students use that are available. I don't know how intuitive they are. I think they're relatively simple, but
there is
you have to explore.
There is a program that we often use for a lot of our social media and flyers. It's called canva.com. Right, you can use their video editing software on there. It's relatively easy and intuitive to use, and it comes with a whole host of other things you can add to it. And there's also tutorials for how to use it online. So if that's something that's, I guess, system agnostic, being that you can use that if you're an Apple or PC user, it's just a website you sign on to and then you import the file that you want to edit.
Great. Yay, we answered Phil's question. That's great. So how about the rest of you? What do you think? We'd love to hear your feedback, both and then answer your questions.
Karen has a question in the feed.
Wonderful.
She said our site's not safe for students to visit, but we're moving forward with their own 250th activities. She was aware we suggested the virtual visits or school presentations, but was wondering if we have any other ideas for their site.
Karen, could you tell us a little bit more about your site?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
No problem.
I lost my buttons. Well, we're the 1759 Vote House in Clinton Township, and we have been working slowly but steadily on restoring the site. And it really isn't ready for big groups of people, especially kids, to visit. It's not safe yet. We just got a grant to, of course, upgrade, but it may not be ready by the time in 2 years, let's say. So we're just looking for other ways to reach out to schools. All of our members, we're all volunteer board and we work other jobs. So it's really hard to get out and do school visitations. I would love to make a video, and that's definitely already, started to organize that, and just wondering if there's anything else you think we could do.
Karen, can you do, I'm sorry, Mark, do you have an idea? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do, but Sarah, if you want to go first, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I've been to the house, and it's a fascinating and really important site. Could you do, take people inside remotely, like have one of your experts on site connecting virtually with classrooms to give them a virtual tour, because I think that would be really super cool.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're thinking about.
Great.
Mine might be a little bit out of what we're expecting, but what an opportunity, right? You guys are doing historic preservation work and restoration, and you can live document that and show students the process of what goes into that and what exactly you're trying to achieve with the end product and why. And like what decisions are being made there. And I think that's equally as valid and as engaging for a young history scholar to see that process in action, and what the end product is and where you started, and what story is able to be explored through that process.
Who knows? Maybe you would be the subject of of a history happened here project about how do modern day historians and preservationists do their work, and that's important work that needs to be recognized. But my thought would be the one alternative. I mean, that's to me that's the most obvious thing would be, or the most direct thing would be virtual visits, or if there were any smaller things that you could bring to a school that. And I know you already said people have jobs, and I get it. I totally get it. The other thought would just be creating like the video that we talked about would be the site visit video, less appropriate for you because you're not ready to have them visit. Though I will say, if History Happened Here works really well, which we think it will, this is not going to be restricted. This will be for the 251st and 252nd anniversary, and it's a program that hopefully will have legs. But my suggestion would be to make videos and post them on a website, or have them linked, or just a YouTube channel of the experts, of the things that, even if it's not live, to do what Mark was suggesting, but shoot short videos, 5-10 minute videos on specific topics. Have experts talk about those things, show them the artifacts, or show them the tell the story so that they're able to do that.
Love it. Thank you.
Sure. Kathleen says we are ready to go. That's just what we were hoping to hear for some people, and those who aren't ready, you got time.
Yeah.
But we are publishing our chapter book for young readers and a companion coloring book, Waves of Revolution. We I think it means intend to create the video, and we open on June 15th through September 15th. Okay, that's great. Be tough to get our kids there for this project between those dates, since school starts like the first week of September. But hopefully they can figure something out.
Right. I was going to pick up on that too, Bob. Maybe this is, a time for you to strategize how you actually could, continue to make your site accessible to students during the school year, because that'll be key. And Jen's got her hand up. Welcome.
Thank you. I have a logistics question. So, in sort of like the matchmaking phase of things, like I sign up to be a site, Red Bank Battlefield, we would love to work with students. Do you then assign us like one class or multi, like how does that all sort of work out?
This
Good
program is totally decentralized. We are not, we provide the resources. We tell people what they can do, or we offer suggestions for what they can do. But the teachers would hopefully reach out within their community or individual students. So again, if I'm a teacher I'll use this example because I do think that your middle school teachers and certainly your elementary school teachers would be doing group projects, 8 kids maybe on a project, let's say, and they're going to decide collectively, we're going to do some, a battle that happened on your battlefield. That's their, it's their local history. It's exciting to them. They're going to do that story. So that teacher would reach out to you, and maybe it would be a miniature field trip with not the entire class, but just the 8 kids who are doing that project. Might be the whole class. Maybe they'll have different themes within the subject matter. It is so much easier for an elementary school teacher, who's juggling a million different things. They're teaching math. Oftentimes they're jack of all trades. It might be easier for them to say, all right, we're all doing something related to the battlefield, but this group is going to do this area that, or afterwards they'll figure out what they're going to do. Then you might have high school students who, if I'm doing this project, I say to my students, you can either work with a partner or work by yourself. you're gonna give me possible topics. We'll talk about it. We'll conference about them, and it could be for me. I would give them maximum flexibility because I want my students to be passionate about what they're doing. The last thing I want is some kid falling into a project that they end up having no interest in. You're not going to get what you want out of that. So maybe there's that kid who loves military battles, and he or she he is usually he is going to want to contact you and maybe do it as an individual. And so that, and hope maybe parents bring them or whatever age that would be age appropriate.
And I want to add to that, Jen, because I think you bring up a really good point, and that is, I mentioned that there's going to be a big push go out from DOE at the end of April, and we will let the community know. If you, hopefully you all are signed up to get our Revolution NJ newsletter. It'll be in there, and we'll announce it on social media. Hey, the mailing has gone out to schools, be ready sites. Because what I would encourage all of you to do, again, you want to sign up on that list that teachers will have access to. Oh yeah, Red Bank Battlefield is one of my options. Great. It's in my county. Great. I want to go there. But we also encourage you to, why not follow up with your local districts or any districts where you want to, why not follow up after that initial push goes out from DOE? Reach out to your local school districts and say, hey, we're here at Red Bank Battlefield in this case. We're participating in History Happen Here. We'd love to welcome your students. I think any additional push and application you can do from your end, and it's going to help you build those relationships with your local schools too.
We are butting up against the hour.
We are. We have 1 more minute. We can take one more question from Peter. Oh, okay. Peter,
Yeah.
he's just saying, yay.
Yeah, I think this sounds fantastic. Can I just will you give a recording of this so I can pass it to other members of my org? But
Yes, we are recording this one and we will put it up on the website, and we'll send all of you who registered for tonight, a notice when it's available.
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
cool. We have a couple of videos already, and a museum, a lecture space, and we'd love to get involved.
Fantastic. And please spread the word.
Okay.
Thank you. So we are right at 8 o'clock. So we're going to wrap it up and give you the rest of your evening back to you. But we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we hope you all sign up. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at RevolutionNJ. You can find information about that at revnj.org. So have a great evening, everyone.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody. Thank you for coming.